I got this sauce for you, my boy. Zesty.
Can y'all believe it? It's already Thursday. I don't know. Maybe you can't believe it. Maybe things are different for you this week. But for me, at least, it feels like this week has flown by. And also, let me throw this in there. It also feels like this college football season is flying by, but it happens every single year. The offseason is always super long, or at least it seems long to me. And then when the season comes here, boom, within the blink of an eye, it's gone. But that's how life works. When you enjoy something, it goes by quickly. It is what it is. And I can't believe these words are about to come out of my mouth, but it's time for the Week 5. Man, the Week 5 preview. We're almost halfway through the regular season. It's a bittersweet feeling because it's sweet because we're getting into conference play, but it's also bitter because football season is going to end before we know it. But for now, at least, I don't even want to think about football season ending because we're just getting started. And I really don't feel like doing no intro, none of that. We're just going to get straight into it. We're going to preview the games. I'm going to give you my predictions, and I don't think you guys are mind whatsoever. We're jumping into things fast. You know how we like to do things around here. Let's start out with our 11 a.m. games first. Oh, wait a minute. My bad. Actually, we got a top 20 matchup on Friday night at 8 p.m. with Utah and Oregon State. I apologize, that game's first, so hey, why not? Let's preview it real quickly here. As where it stands, Oregon State is a 3.5 point favorite, and they're coming off of that brutal loss to the Washington State Cougars. I want to keep this one relatively short and simple. I've been high on Utah all throughout the offseason. I'm still high on them. And the fact they're winning games with a backup quarterback, it's remarkable. Utah has a heck of a defense, and I just think they're the better overall team. With or without Cam Rising, they're going to win this game. I assume from everything I've heard, Cam Rising will not be playing, but I could be mistaken on that. It's an intriguing matchup because don't get me wrong, Oregon State probably has the better offense in this game, but Utah definitely has the better defense. But even with that being said, it's not like Oregon State's defense is bad. They're pretty average. They're only allowing 327 yards per game. But on the contrary, Utah's defense, you just can't compare. They're a top 10 defense in the country. They're only allowing 263 total yards per game. They're good, man. They're good. And they held a pretty solid UCLA team to only 7 points. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. The most points Utah has given up this season is 13. I'm just on the Utah hype train. The skillet's hot. I've been rolling with them all year long, and I'm going to continue to do so. I'll put it this way. Utah hasn't given me a reason to not believe in them and not pick them to win this game. And I'll just throw this in there. If Utah's offense can ever get going and start clicking, that's going to be a hard team to beat. Right now, they're already difficult to beat without an offense. Imagine them with an offense. Sheesh, man, that's going to be scary, but that's a good game to look forward to on your Friday night at 8 p.m. Surprisingly enough, though, Oregon State is favored in this ballgame by 4 points. I'll give you a score for this game. I'm going to say Utah 24, Oregon State 21. I like that. Give you a nice little score. But now finally, let's get into our 11 a.m. games on Saturday. And man, oh man, we got a pretty dang good slate of 11 a.m. games starting out hot with Penn State and North. No, I'm just playing. You thought I was going to talk about Penn State and Northwestern? Come on, man. We're not talking about that. It's going to be a blowout. We're starting out really hot with USC and Colorado. Coach Prime Time. We're actually not going to be talking about that game because we already did a separate preview for that game in last night's video. Go check it out if you haven't already. That is going to be a big time matchup, but we've already talked about it yet again. So let's start out with, how about this? Florida and Kentucky. As to where it stands, this is about as close as it gets. Kentucky is a 1 point favorite to win this game. 1 point favorite. That is probably the lowest line I've seen in a very long time. Florida is still on their high horse after that big time win against Tennessee a couple of weeks ago. They have a lot of momentum, and on the flip side for Kentucky, they have a lot of momentum. They're undefeated. Granted, they haven't played anybody, but they're still 4-0. You can't take that away from them. The game is at home, and it's just a really tricky matchup and a really tricky game to predict because you don't know what you're going to get. Florida, up and down, and Kentucky, they haven't played anybody. It's hard to evaluate them. On paper, at least, it's a pretty even matchup. I'm going to go with my gut. My gut was telling me to pick Florida, beating Tennessee. Telling me the same thing here. I'm going to take the Gators in this game. I do expect it to be a close one, but I think Graham Mertz, he's going to be the X factor. I think he's a better quarterback in this game, and he's going to carry Florida to a win. I'll take Florida in that one, no problem at all. Heading into our 2:30 games, we got a couple ones, or not just a couple, but a few we're going to talk about. Starting out hot with Auburn and Georgia. The line on this game is fairly intriguing because Auburn's not a good football team and Georgia's only favored by 14 points. Make no mistakes about it, Auburn doesn't have the talent to beat Georgia, doesn't have the quarterback to beat Georgia, doesn't have the head coach to beat Georgia. Everything about this game is telling you Georgia's going to win by 20 plus points. But and I have a really big but, you better believe this, there's one key element to this game. It's in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And if you know anything about that stadium, you know there's some type of witchcraft going on there. I don't know how to explain it. If you know, you know. My stomach gets upset just thinking about Jordan-Hare Stadium. Just weird stuff happens there. And for that reason alone, I can understand why Auburn's only a 14-point underdog. Let's get serious, though. Does Auburn even have a chance to win this game? I think they have a slight chance. The only way you can pull off this upset is if, number one, you play your A++ game. That's it. If you don't play your A++ game, you're not even going to have a fighting chance. To go on top of that, Peyton Thorne or Robbie Ashford, whoever's playing quarterback for Auburn at a certain point in time, they can't make mistakes. You make mistakes against this Georgia team, you're going to lose, plain and simple. They got to play turnover-free football, but also they got to expand the defense. Auburn, they're averaging what, like 100? Hold on, let me pull it up. I think they're averaging only 100 passing yards per game. It's pitiful. Okay, they're averaging 173. That's still awful. It's not good. And for Georgia to fear you, they got to fear your passing game, and they don't. I've watched almost every single one of Auburn's games this year, and they look bad, man. They look bad. Even in the game against California, in which they won, which they really shouldn't have because California's kicker missed like 3 field goals. They look bad in that one as well. I'm just going to keep this short and simple. I would love to talk about this game for 10 or 15 minutes because it's such a historic rival game, but it's not going to be close. I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to be much of a game because I don't see anywhere in this game where Auburn has the advantage over Georgia. Maybe, and this is just a maybe, you can jump out on them early in the first half and get the home crowd involved. But even at that, I think Georgia overcome it. Let's keep it moving, though. Obviously, I'm taking Georgia in this game, and they'll probably win it by 17 to 24 points. Moving along here to another 2:30 game, we got Michigan versus Nebraska. I'm not going to talk about it too long because you know who I'm going to pick in the game. But the reason I do want to bring it up is because I want to see if, number one, this Nebraska team has improved since they played Colorado. And number two, I want to see just how bad they are. I want to see if Nebraska can put up a fight against a top dog. That's all I want to see in this game. Let's not overcomplicate this. I got Michigan winning. It's similar to the Auburn game, really similar. Michigan has a better team than Nebraska. Nebraska shouldn't win it, but it is at home, and maybe some crazy things happen. You never know. But for me, I'll take Michigan, but that game might be sneaky good in the first half. I could see Nebraska hanging with them for a quarter or two, but in the third and fourth quarter, Michigan, they'll pull away. Another 2:30 game. We got a top 25 matchup. We got the Longhorns, number 3 in the country. What about that? Are they back? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. Versus Kansas. Kansas is a whopping and an outstanding 4-0. And yes, guys, we were talking about football. I'm not talking about college basketball. Call me a Debbie Downer, but I don't understand the hype with Kansas. Texas is a 16.5-point favorite for a reason. They're going to dominate them. Texas is not going to slip up in this ball game. Quinn Ewers, he's going to go out there and play the way he should. Texas wins by 20-plus points. I like Jalen Daniels. If you don't know, that's the quarterback for Kansas, but I like Quinn Ewers more. I like Texas more in this ball game. It's also worth mentioning that, yeah, Kansas is 4-0, but number one, they haven't played anybody, and number two, it's not like they're pulling away from these teams. However, I do want to state this before we move on here. I wouldn't be shocked if Texas has a letdown game. I'll put it this way. I'd be shocked if Nebraska upset Michigan. I'd be shocked if Auburn upset Georgia. But I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas walked in there and beat Texas. I wouldn't be, because if you've been watching Texas football the past 13 years, this is bound to happen. Can they avoid the letdown game? I'm predicting they will, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's it for our 2:30 games. Moving along here to a 5 o'clock game. Very odd kickoff. We got 13 LSU, the Tigers. Go Tigers. Shout out to Ed Ogeron. And number 20 Ole Miss, Lane Train. For those of y'all who don't know, this game has a lot, and I mean a lot of ramifications on the line. Number one, for starters, it's an SEC matchup, and both teams, this is a playoff game. You lose this game, you have no shot making the playoff. Essentially speaking, this is an elimination game, and we all knew Ole Miss wasn't going to make the playoffs, but LSU, they had high hopes heading into the season. And I think potential-wise, their team is good enough to be a playoff team. Another reason why this is a big-time game is because this isn't just an SEC matchup, this is an SEC West matchup. LSU and Ole Miss, they're in the same division as Alabama. So this is why this game also is a pretty big deal, at least in the SEC side of things. As to where it stands fans, LSU is a 2.5-point favorite, and I agree with that. I think they should be favored in this ball game. I get it. LSU is only a 2.5-point favorite, but it should not be that close. LSU is a far better team. And I know everybody's going to bring up, well, Matt, what about when they played Florida State and got completely destroyed? What about that? Yes, I saw it just like everybody else, but I'm also willing to overlook that because LSU's looked pretty dang good the past couple of weeks. It was week 1. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to just write off LSU because they look bad in a half of football against Florida State. Because remember, in the first half, they was better than Florida State. Let's not forget to mention and throw that in there. LSU is still a really good team, and I think they're underrated. As far as it goes for Ole Miss, you're on life alert because it's going to be bad for this team if you lose back-to-back games. It's already disappointing losing Alabama. Yeah, it's Alabama. You probably should lose to them, but this was the one year if you were going to get Nick Saban, you should have got him because this Alabama team ain't that good. And now you play LSU, and if you lose back-to-back games, that team morality is going to be in the dumpster. And my biggest takeaway from the Alabama game was, yeah, Alabama played good in the second half, but Ole Miss just isn't that good, man. They're not that good. If I was an LSU fan, I wouldn't be too worried about this game. I'm going to take the Tigers by 14, 17 points. Give me the Tigers in that one. Moving along here. Where's our next two game? Yeah, 6:30. We got Notre Dame versus the Dukies. Why did I say Dukies? Like, I don't know. Sorry for being... We got Duke. There we go. The Dukies, Duke, whatever you want to call them. We got a top 20 matchup. Another big game for Notre Dame because this is a playoff game. Every game here on out for Notre Dame, it's a playoff game. You can't afford another loss, and you need to win this game. This is a big bounce back game. And here's something to pay attention to, and this happens in sports a lot. Sometimes when you have a devastating loss like Notre Dame did against Ohio State, it not only can beat you that week, but it can beat you the week after. I just hope that these Notre Dame players, they're not demoralized and they come into this game and they're ready to play. I got a weird feeling that Notre Dame, they might have a letdown, and this isn't a team you want to have a letdown against because Duke could beat you by 20-plus points if they wanted to. They did it against Clemson. Make no mistakes about it, this Duke ball team is pretty dang good. They're one of the better teams in the ACC. I love me some Sam Hartman. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I like Marcus Freeman. I hope they bounce back for their sake. But man, I tell you what, O'Reilly Leonard, the quarterback for Duke, that kid can play. They have to worry about him, not just through the air, but on the ground. I've been going back and forth with this game the past several days, and I'm going to do it. I'm calling the upset. I got Duke beating Notre Dame. And the main reason for me picking Duke in this game is because I think Notre Dame's still going to be sluggish and still upset about that game last week. I think they're going to be hanging their heads because you got to think about this, guys. Duke, they're riding high. They got all the momentum in the world. And on the flip side for Notre Dame, yeah, they're kind of down. They're thinking to themselves, man, we should have won that game. And I think they're going to be thinking about last week too much when they should be focusing about this week. I like Duke in this ball game, and I think they pull it off. Give me the Dukies. And last but not least, second to last, we got to talk about the Bama game because they don't kick off till 8 p.m. We got South Kakalaki versus Tennessee. Whew, man, there's a lot of good games on Saturday, and this is arguably the one I'm looking forward to the most. Tennessee, Bobby Hill, and Joe Milton versus the Rattler. Wow, I didn't even know this. As where it stands right now, Tennessee is a 12-point favorite. What? No. To me, that is way too high. I don't have a problem with Tennessee being favored in this game, but I think they should only be favored by maybe a touchdown. South Carolina is not a bad ball team, guys. They're really not. I'm going to remind you that South Carolina was beating the reigning national champions back-to-back years 14-3 at half. And also, South Carolina in this ball game has the better quarterback. Spencer Rattler is better than Joe Milton. And that is not a knock on Joe Milton, but Rattler, he's been playing out of his mind this year. His X factor, though, and his name starts with an X. Ironically enough, I didn't plan for that. Xavier Legette. Am I saying his name right? I think I am. I forgot how to say it, but if I'm not, I do apologize. Legette is Rattler's favorite target, and it's not even close. He has 556 receiving yards already. So Tennessee's definitely going to have to hold him in check, and here's the interesting part about this game. Last year, South Carolina spoiled Tennessee's playoff chances and hopes because they upset them. So this is also not only a home game for Tennessee, which I should have thrown in there, but it's a revenge game. But I'll tell you what, man, I am just not sold on this Tennessee football team. They're not very good at defense, and their offense in the only one serious game they played this year against Florida didn't look too good. Okay, you put up 49 on Virginia, but it's Virginia. Come on, man. Outside of that, not impressed. Not impressed at all, and I'm extremely underwhelmed. I want to take Tennessee in this game, but I don't know if I can count on them. At least with South Carolina, I know what I'm going to get. Good quarterback play, shaky offensive line, and their defense ain't too great. That is pretty much South Carolina football for you. And I know what you're sitting there saying, well, Matt, that didn't really sound like a good thing, and it's not, but at least I know what to expect. With Tennessee, it's like, okay, you played one real deal opponent this year on the road, and you lost. And it's not the fact you lost, it's the fact you looked embarrassing in the loss. This has been one of the hardest games for me. I've been thinking about it the past couple of days, and I want to pick South Carolina just because of Spencer Rattler. But this game is at home. It's a night game, Neyland Stadium, crazy environment. We saw how it was last year when Bryce Young and Nick Saban and Alabama came into town. Just because it's at home, I'm going to pick Tennessee. I'm going to hope and I'm praying that they don't let me down. And another reason I'm picking Tennessee in this ball game is because South Carolina's defense isn't too great, and I think Joe Milton, they'll pick it up. Let me put it this way. There's no way they can be as bad as they were in the Florida game again in this ball game. No way. I don't know, though. Maybe they will be, but I expect Tennessee to bounce back. I think it's going to be a close one, though. I'm going to take Tennessee 34, South Carolina 30. Going to be a close one, and it's going to come down to who makes the bigger plays. And last but not least, on our great slate of games for this Saturday coming up, we got Alabama versus Mississippi State at 8 p.m. Late kickoff. Real late kickoff. It's almost past my bedtime. As to where it stands, Alabama is a 14.5-point favorite, and I think that's fair. Mississippi State is not a good team, but they're not a bad team. Not a bad team at all. Their two losses this year come to LSU. That was a butt whooping, 41-14, and South Carolina, a team we just talked about, 37-30. They easily could have won that South Carolina game and been sitting pretty at 3-1, but they're not. And let's just get this out of the way. Alabama should win this ball game. I wouldn't label this as a trap game because I don't think it is, but it could be a game where Mississippi State plays their A+ game and Alabama shows up in there thinking they're Alabama and they deserve a win, and they give C+ effort, similar to what happened against South Florida. And another reason this game concerns me, and every game is going to concern me from here on out, is we got Jalen Milroe, for better or for worse. Jalen Milroe, he could throw you 2 interceptions that cost you 14 points just like that and change the whole trajectory of the game. What if, for example, let's just throw this out there, Mississippi State, they receive the kickoff, march down the field, score 7 points, wouldn't shock me, and then Jalen Milroe, he throws a pick 6, and we're down just like that within the blink of an eye, 14-0. This Alabama offense and team isn't built to overcome a 14-point, 17-point deficit. No. To me, at least, that's the worst case scenario, obviously, and that probably won't happen, but it could happen. Realistically speaking, here's what's going to happen. Alabama's going to run the ball and have some pretty good success, and they'll throw in some play action, and Jalen Milroe, he'll have a pretty good night, and Alabama walks out of here with a 14, 17, 20-point victory. Per usual, though, let's talk about this. Where's the advantage or the edge for Mississippi State? The only edge they have in this game, after looking at everything, is probably their quarterback, Will Rogers. You could argue and say that he's better than Jalen Milroe. I don't have a problem with that. But here's the thing with that. Alabama's defense is pretty dang good, so good luck. I don't see Will Rogers and Mississippi State putting up 28 points on this Alabama defense. And that's what it's going to take because Mississippi State's defense is awful. I'll give you 2 case scenarios. I think this game's going to go one way or another. Case number 1 is Alabama goes in there and they just completely annihilate them and win 45-7. Case number 2 is I think Mississippi State, they play their A+ game. They'll come out hot, hitting on all cylinders. Alabama struggles and Alabama just sneaks out there with a 31-28 victory. I could see either of those outcomes happening. But at the end of the day, you know where I'm going with this. I'm not going to pick Mississippi State to win this game, and nobody is. I'm going to take Bama in this one. I think that Ole Miss win, it was big for them, and slowly but surely, they're piecing things together. It's a work in progress. I'll take Bama, let's say. I'll give Bama 38. I'll go high scoring. We'll go Bama 38, Mississippi State 21. 38-21, I like that. That's all the big time games. I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But Roman!